Tonight on K24 Evening Edition.
In this context, we have chosen the theme of this year's budget as sustaining the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, fiscal consolidation, and investing in climate change mitigation and adaptation for improved livelihoods.
The highs and lows of Ruto's second budget of 3.9 trillion shillings.
I have proposed a total allocation of 656.6 billion, or 27.6% of total expenditures to the education sector.
The education sector is among the winners in this budget with an additional allocation of 28 billion shillings.
As members of parliament, we still owe the government about 10 billion Kenya shillings, which was supposed to fund for CDF. Now, with this budget of 4 trillion, how do we intend to fund or to finance this particular budget?
Also tonight, reactions flow fast and furious on the budget and its implications.
One suspect entered to the courts and injured the magistrate in that particular court and the orderlies. But lucky enough, our officers who are within the courts were able to act swiftly, and we managed to neutralize the situation.
And tragedy in Makadara Law Court as police officer is shot dead after shooting principal magistrate in open court for remanding his wife. Thank you for joining us here on K24 Evening Edition. My name is Brian Amwai on a day that is very special in this country as far as matters finance is concerned, because it is today that the National Treasury CS Professor Njuguna Ndung'u did table the budget for the year 2024 in the National Assembly. We want to give you those particular stories here on the program tonight. Engage us on our socials at Amwai Brian, that is on X at K24 TV. We are also live on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to send your feedback on those particular social platforms, and we'll be sampling some of it as we continue with the program tonight. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Walter Asewe. Now let's begin. The National Treasury CS Professor Njuguna Ndung'u on Thursday tabled the budget estimates for the coming financial year 2024-2025. Now, the theme of the budget is sustaining the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, fiscal consolidation, and investing in climate change mitigation and adaptation for improved livelihoods. Now, to align with the budget, with this theme, the Treasury presented the 3.9 trillion budget to the House, targeting 5 areas that they termed as core-priority areas to help propel the better economic agenda. Now, that is the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. And we just want to take a look at some of these areas that were targeted by this particular budget. And that includes maybe if we just go back a little bit, which was MSMEs. MSMEs were one of the sectors that this particular budget was targeting, and we also had the issue to do with health, which was actually being targeted by this particular budget. We also had issues to do with youth and empowerment, and on that particular front, we did see that 5.5 billion was allocated to the Hustler Fund. 200 million was allocated to the Youth Enterprise Fund, and 162 billion was allocated to for Center for Entrepreneurship Project, and 1.9 billion for Rural Kenya financial inclusion, rather. Now, we also, some of the other areas that were being looked at in this particular transformation agenda, we did see the education, which got 656 billion. And under this particular sector, 358 billion will go to the Teacher Service Commission. 142.3 billion is allocated for basic education, and 128 billion for higher education and research, and of course 30.7 billion for TVET, 9.1 billion for free primary education, and 61.9 billion for free day secondary education, 30.7 billion for junior secondary school. And that is an important sector, because we've seen junior secondary school teachers actually taking to the streets protesting and saying they wanted to be given permanent employment. That has actually been allocated. This, of course, what we were talking about earlier on, which is the agricultural transformation and inclusive growth, has been allocated 54 billion shillings, which they say these are some of the areas that the budget is focusing on in order to get to propel their idea, which is to do what? To actually focus on the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. One of the other things that this budget actually looked at is the micro, small and medium enterprises, and I did highlight that earlier on what exactly will be going into which particular sector. Housing and settlement, of course, has gotten 92.1 billion shillings, and in this particular sector, of course, it is in line with the agenda to construct 200,000 houses a year in order to deal with the issue of housing challenge and in turn create job opportunities for the youth. Also in this particular areas of focus, rather, we have healthcare, which has been given 127 billion, and I'll be getting into the details of that later on. And also we do have the digital, superhighway and creative economy industry, which has gotten 16.3 billion Kenya shillings. Of course, health sector has been allocated 127 billion. So in this particular sector, we do want to look at different areas that have been the main area of focus. And I do have 4.2 billion for universal health coverage, coordination and management unit, 2 billion, of course, for free maternity health care, 3.6 billion for managed equipment services, 861.5 million for medical cover for orphans, the elderly and severely disabled persons, and 4.6 billion for stipend and acquisition of specialized medical equipment for community health promoters. We also have 4.1 billion for primary healthcare fund and 193.4 billion for the development of roads. This development of roads is not supposed to be there. This is under the health sector, which has been allocated 127 billion Kenya shillings. Of course, let's take a look at another sector that has been allocated money in this particular budget of 2024-2025, and we do have tourism, sports, culture and recreation. How much has it gotten? It has gotten 23.7 billion, and in different areas. Let's focus on the sports docket, which is Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. It has gotten 16.5 billion, and for 4.9 billion has been allocated for the tourism fund and 2.2 billion for the tourism promotion fund. Okay. Another sector that has been was given priority in this particular budget. Let's take a look at another sector. All right, we do have housing, urban development, public works. It has 92.1 billion. The national security, of course, that particular sector has been given 377 billion. Of course, this will be looking into police service and also NIS and issues to do with defense. And also counties. This particular budget, they have been allocated 400 billion shillings as far as their equitable revenue sharing, equitable revenue rather, is concerned. It has been actually increased from what has we did have the last time, which was 390. All right, now it is a 3.9 trillion budget, and with a deficit of 597 billion. So how are we going to look at this particular deficit? How do we get to finance this particular deficit? Well, 333.8 billion will come from foreign borrowing and also 263 from domestic financing. Okay, now the target for this particular budget is 2.9 trillion rather, Kenya shillings, of course, and we do have the finance bill in Parliament. The Finance and Planning Committee has actually retreated to get to draft that particular report that will be tabled in the House and later open for debate. When they pass it, that's exactly how we are going to finance this particular budget that we've highlighted tonight. Now, President William Ruto's second budget for the financial year 2024-2025 set at 3.992 trillion Kenya shillings, expected to help the economy grow by 5.5%. According to Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, this growth will only be realized through the payment of taxes, as the government is keen to avert borrowing while reducing associated risks. Joel Chacha now reports.
The Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u has today unveiled the 2024-2025 budget, which stands at 3.992 trillion Kenya shillings. He asserts that this budget will help the economy grow by 5.5%.
If we want to improve our country, if we want to defend that growth, if we want to improve the quality of life for Kenyans, it means we have to accept three things. We have to push the development that we want. and we have to finance that development. And we have to be accountable to that development. And that is what the budget is actually telling us.
Professor Ndung'u wants Kenyans to help finance President William Ruto's second budget through taxes with a set revenue target to hit a historic high of 2.9 trillion Kenya shillings, or else development will remain a distant dream without this revenue.
If we don't put in the policy measures, the programs, the projects, the interventions, then we will fail. All those require resources. Those resources have to come from taxes. There's nowhere else the resources will come from. So we have to persevere for us to get a better future.
The budget, however, has a fiscal deficit of 597 billion Kenya shillings.
Fiscal deficit for 2024-2025 will be financed by net external borrowing of 333.8 billion, equivalent to 1.8% of GDP, and net domestic borrowing of 263.2 billion, which is equivalent to 1.5% of GDP.
The Treasury says further highlighted the steps needed to reduce the debt burden and the risk that the nation faces.
The government will slow down uptake of new external commercial debt and undertake liability management operations through debt swaps and other innovative solutions. The government will also diversify sources of financing through issuance of Panda bond, Samurai bond, and Skook in diverse financial markets in China, Japan, and the Gulf regions respectively. The government will maximize use of concessional financing from bilateral and multilateral institutions to improve the debt sustainability and boost our credit rating.
The Ruto-led government has been urged to take bold steps to implement austerity measures to enable the achievement of a balanced budget.
Mr. Speaker, in order to move towards a balanced budget and further improve efficiency in public spending, the following bold actions and reforms have been outlined: foreign travels, rationalization of all training expenses across government, and restricting all training to within government institutions, rationalizing all allocations for purchases of motor vehicles, and suspending purchases of furniture for a period of 1 year, and suspending all refurbishment and partitioning of government offices.
Joel Chacha, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Now, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u asserts that the government will settle its pending bills totaling over 600 billion shillings by the end of October. Now, this commitment remains firm despite the absence of an allocation for the same in the budget presented today in Parliament. Now, David Kagina has further details.
The pending bills verification team headed by former Auditor General Edward Ouko stated that government owes contractors and suppliers 110 billion shillings, refuting the initial figure of 641 billion shillings as indicated in the quarterly economic and budget review report by the National Treasury released last September. Nonetheless, Treasury CS Njuguna Ndung'u has expressed optimism that the government will succeed in clearing the bills before the year's end.
We've given ourselves to October and solve this problem once and for all. It means we are putting a trap, a line saying from 1st July 2024, we will not have any pending bills because we are now moving into accrual accounting.
Despite the absence of an allocation in today's budget statement, he maintains that the pending bills remain a priority for the government.
Where we are moving from June 2005 to October to October 2022 is because we want to close that chapter. But what we are really saying is that it will never happen again. We want to close it in finality.
The Pending Bills Verification Committee has received 94,997 claims totaling to 662.3 billion shillings. Analysis of these claims is ongoing and the committee is expected to finalize its work by October 2024 for implementation within the fiscal framework. Late last year, President William Ruto pledged to work towards clearing the 600 billion shillings debt.
It will be a happy ending, but it's a dirty history that we need to solve, isn't it? Your business should not sink because you had business with the government.
David Kagina, K24, Nairobi.
Now, the 2024-2025 budget proposes a significant increase of the 28 billion shillings for education sector. I'll be coming back to that particular story later on, but at this particular point, I do want to take a break. Continue engaging us on our socials at Amoy Brian, that is on X at K24 TV. We are also live on Facebook and on YouTube. We'll be sampling your feedback as we continue with the program tonight. Okay, we take a break. We'll be back in a few.
Mwezi huu wa Mei, changamka na StarTime. Tunaleta joto na channels mpya na shows mpya kwa ajili yako. Chagua bouquet yako na uwe connected.